Hi, Nan. It's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. We're here on the sidelines of DX Week 2023 in Palo Alto. We have a wonderful event today focused on the topic of compute and connectivity. And would just love to have a conversation with you and understand more about your thoughts on the topics that we covered today. So maybe first off, maybe you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit more about the work that you do at Qualcomm Ventures.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew, for inviting me to this amazing event and for having me for this interview. So I'm Nan. I've been with Qualcomm Ventures for over 3 years, and this is also the 7th year of my venture capital career. I started investing in AI in 2016 with Baidu, when Baidu was still having the AI research lab there. I was leading on Baidu's AI investment for a few years, and I joined Qualcomm Ventures 3 years ago. As you know, that Qualcomm Ventures is a very legendary CVC for over 20 years already. Qualcomm Ventures focus on the investment of AI, IoT connectivity, and edge AI, and also 5G related sectors. And as a mobile internet category definer, Qualcomm Ventures was like performing the role of startups and connecting startups with Qualcomm's ecosystem, try to bring these different vertical startups together to use Qualcomm's computing power, make the best use of it to leverage Qualcomm's advantage. So for the past 20 years, Qualcomm Ventures been investing in a lot of amazing startups such as Zoom, Cloudera, etc. And also in Qualcomm has a large global footprint. We have offices in China, in Israel, in Latin America, India as well. So it's a pretty big global team.
Wonderful. So clearly you're an expert in the space and you've seen a lot of innovations in the marketplace. What do you see are some of the more innovative technologies that investors now are paying attention to in the marketplace that related to connectivity, compute, IoT, et cetera?
Absolutely. So, Qualcomm's specialty is in the connectivity, 5G, and IoT, and edge AI, right? And Qualcomm has been the leading pioneer for the mobile internet computing. So all the chips on the smartphones, on the IoT devices in the edge side, Qualcomm is the leader. So right now, in this data-centric AI era and also the device-centric, it is critical that in the device side, you have all the information connected, you bring the valuable data, right? So this edge side computing capabilities iteration is super important. So absolutely, I think Qualcomm is in the leadership role for that. And as Qualcomm Ventures, we tend to look for startups that can make the best use of the edge computing, AI edge computing. So for myself, I look at a lot of AI verticals such as AI for retail, AI for manufacturing, industrial automation, etc. Now with generative AI, the era of generative AI is coming. We also trying to explore if there will be the smaller large language model. Now the large language model is all billions, actually trillions of parameter. But the sweet spot maybe for all the broader application for different vertical sectors will be 5 to 7 or 20, 30-ish of billions of parameter. I think a lot of startups and industries, these big companies are trying to explore these sectors as well. And I believe this days is coming very soon. And at that time, the edge computing, the inferencing computing will be very important to make it more scalable.
And on the topic of large language models, there are a number of companies that we find in the marketplace that are providing very attractive solutions that have captivated numerous people worldwide. Are we seeing companies that are focused on domain-specific solutions that you think could be very compelling for a company like Qualcomm, like perhaps something related to audio or something similar to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something I'm trying to explore right now for domain specific, because I think to develop a domain specific large language model for different sectors or verticals, right? Try to add value. You need to number one, have the unique set of data,
Mm.
maybe even private data that is not available yet. And this data must be very valuable, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to have very valuable and very effective data for sure. And second, I think you need to have that domain industry knowledge to give the right prompt questions to train the data better. So you really need industry expertise. And I think combine all of this together, you still need a right business model. You need to find the right person, the right sector that is willing to pay. What is the right business model for a large language model for the specific domain knowledge? I think we're still exploring that. Now people are paying, I guess, API fee for OpenAI. But what is going to happen for these future, startups? It could be different ways. Like, for example, it could be to B oriented, or if it's to B2B to C, a platform for different sectors. So I think a lot of exciting things is going to happen, but these are kind of the basic frameworks I'm looking for.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so as we start thinking about startups that are in this space, we can imagine that there are startups that have experts on the teams. They've gone out, they've acquired the right talent, and they've built the teams from the ground up, and they're brilliant folks on the team. We can also imagine that they've worked hard on putting together a nice business model, something that makes sense for the market and is profitable. But then comes the question, how would they get access to the proprietary data? I think as a small startup, if you were to say, you would need to purchase the data or license it, it would be hard to imagine a startup having the kind of capital that one would need to do that. What are your thoughts on different ways that startups
get data?
Innovate?
This is a really good question. I think for domain-specific startup to be successful, they really need to figure out a way to get this data, right? Which means they need the industry expertise in the team as founding member. I can give example of one of my portfolio called Palo. So they're using the multimodality AI, using the video-centric approach to generate the video for the industrial and manufacturing sectors of people to learn. It's basically AI knowledge transfer. So what they're doing right now is previously, of course, they're just capturing the video and using the AI to segment it for people to learn more effectively. Now with generative AI and the large language model, they're of course applying all of these tools to make it more productive. And they're leveraging on the OpenAI's tools for sure. Of course, they will try to develop their own model in the future. I'm hoping that it's going to come soon. But what I'm more confident is they are the type of company, I guess, a group of people with that industry specific knowledge. The founding team is from Siemens, from different vertical sectors with a large knowledge base of the manufacturing industrial sector. That's something other people don't know. Like, this is something people who doing the model, they don't understand. And it's not publicly available, not on Wikipedia, not something you can extract immediately from the internet. Because these takes decades of the experience. For example, how do you assemble a specific product in a product line, in this wine manufacturing, in a specific car manufacturing place, and how to put two, screw two things together. I make it a very simple language, but you know what I mean. So it's all of these are not easy, and you have to. You also have this large book of the, I would say, manufacturing SOP, right? Standard procedure, and you have to read it and have a deep understanding of it, and you can generate a video. It's not a simple video that you can generate immediately through Midjourney or something. Without that part of decades of accumulated knowledge, it's impossible. So I would say that companies like this will have a unique advantage to become maybe the leader of the domain-specific generative AI companies.
No, that's an excellent point. And so one could imagine that in that case, then perhaps one of the most important criteria to evaluate as an investor is the team. Evaluate their level of expertise in the domain.
Exactly.
Evaluate their perhaps potentially their network of relationships
Yeah.
and other.
And if they have the structured data available.
I
Like
see.
the Palo example I give you, they have the structured video content and knowledge data they captured over the past few years when they're
Yeah.
developing the Palo platform products. They already have the structured data,
Right.
but it's not public. It's mostly private. And in order to train a model, of course, you need to give enough safety
Yes.
regulation to train a model.
Definitely.
But this part of this data belong to their customer, right? Belongs to the industry. And
Yes.
but always you can find a safe way to train it,
Mhm,
to
mhm.
encode it or decode it. However, these will be never publicly available, but you will have a stronger model in the future to
Right.
bring a lot of value to the same vertical's customers.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah, very good point. And I can imagine that the startups that are pioneering in this space
Mhm.
are also probably pioneering different concepts in terms of who owns the data, how the data is licensed,
Right.
how the data can be accessed, and things like
Mhm.
that. Are you seeing that where the teams are also innovating in those areas?
I haven't looked at this specific type of startups yet, but I know there are a lot of like a co-pilot type of startups
Yeah,
doing
that's
that,
right.
Trying to help you with the data, especially for healthcare industry,
That's right.
for retail sectors.
Right.
These are generally a little bit low tech, right?
Mm.
But these people really need this model to make their work more efficient,
Yes,
especially
yes,
for healthcare
yes.
sectors. But you don't have this machine learning expertise to
Right.
make it happen immediately. So you will need startups help, who can help them to bring the useful data to help them teach them how to use the model, right?
Yeah.
But I think the data part to make it safe, to make it HIPAA compliance,
Yes.
is a potential opportunity for startup.
Right.
It's
Right.
something maybe I think a lot of VCs already looking at. Yeah, we
Yes.
just haven't looked at it yet. So.
Excellent points.
Mhm.
I'd like to shift gears now, talk a little bit about more specifically edge compute.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that I had some conversations with some investors, and one of the big points that was made is, so for edge compute, we're seeing more and more how certain decision making at the edge, sensing at the edge, these are becoming more and more important in this day and age. But there are some challenges. In particular, one challenge being energy, being able to make decision making at the edge, sensing at the edge, but ultra low power.
Right.
What are some of your views on that? What are some of the things that you're seeing in terms of startups that are innovating in these areas
For the edge compute?
for edge compute?
Good question. I think Qualcomm is expertise of this.
Of course.
From my observation of my portfolios, right, is I invest in a startup in AI retail and also industrial automation, manufacturing side. I think one challenge is how can you deploy the model effectively in the edge side? If you want to explore that from the compute perspective, is of course you want a chip that is both very efficient in power consumption,
Yes,
but still can compute it effectively, right?
that's right.
I think with Qualcomm's chips, it's good enough. And the thing is that whether you have good software environments, I guess ecosystem, to make sure that the compute can run on the edge smoothly, and whenever they need to connect with the clouds to deliver the data back, is there a very smooth process as well?
Yes.
So I think sometimes that requires the user certain computing knowledge to make it happen, to make it better. Because sometimes it's not startups' jobs to spoon feeding all this procedure.
Right, right.
I think the industry-specific players will need to set up some of the infra from the edge side to the cloud side together.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I do think that, interestingly enough, there are some large corporates that are having conversations around this. What does that infra look like, and how could various companies work together to
Mhm.
support that in the
Yeah,
ecosystem.
yeah. And recall Dr. Hennessy today
Yeah,
during the
that's
interview,
right.
he mentioned about for the era of generative AI, right? You need to have this modular
Hmm.
architecture for this big model, right? That you
That's
can
right.
run together, run simultaneously across different computing units,
Yes,
across
it's
different
true.
clusters to make it more efficient. I'm not sure if it can reduce the cost effectively, but of
Yeah,
course, I think it can improve the speed significantly.
certainly. One of the
Mm,
thoughts that I had was if we're talking about connectivity and compute and edge compute, one of the classic examples that people often bring up is the smartphone.
yeah.
It's something that's ubiquitous.
Mhm.
Many people have it, and it's so powerful and useful. Do you see any other amazing applications, products
Mhm.
that could potentially in the future, maybe some years from now, rival the
Mm.
smartphone in terms of edge and providing the right kinds of capabilities
Mhm.
that both users as well as enterprise customers would want?
I think, of course, the last 10 years, it's a smartphone era, right? Mobile internet, everybody
Absolutely.
has a smartphone, use smartphone for a lot of things, not just
Yeah.
communication, but also taking pictures.
That's
right?
right.
You live on a smartphone. There's a lot of apps that you rely on. It's all on a smartphone, but it's not screen free, right?
That's right.
So. And last year, people talked about a lot about AR, VR. AR, VR makes the content a lot more rich, a lot more vivid. You like live in this digital twin world. I think AR, VR in another dimension, making things more, not I don't want to say complicated, but I think it's brings a lot of different elements into life, and then you enter into like a different style of life in the digital twin world, and you can really live in the digital world like Meta's previous vision, right?
Yes.
Meta's last year's vision. And in the other side, you can have the life more simple. Maybe just a device, you carry it,
Yes.
but achieve a truly screen-free. The device maybe can project something immediately over the air, or
Yeah.
just project the image to your hand, to the wall whenever needed. And it carries it acts like a chatbot assistant
Yeah.
that help you with all the things you need. And maybe you have that large language model embedded in that device. And actually, Qualcomm Ventures invests in a company like this.
Oh, wonderful.
Very interesting. So not my portfolio, my colleague Tushar Gupta's portfolio called Human. It's an amazing product. They just launched the product demo on TED Talk a few weeks ago. You can check on that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very exciting format for the future device people will carry on.
I can imagine what you're saying. It's screen free, but able to understand user intent, understand different commands other than the ones that we're used to, writing something or saying something.
Yeah.
And then still, do some computation, leverage some data, but then produce
personal assistant. You can,
that's right.
For example, you can ask him, okay, what's my schedule today?
Yeah.
Like? And can you book a meeting for me? Book a restaurant for me? And can you calculate the best, I guess, the way to go to certain places?
Or even more passive things. For example, everywhere you go, it would monitor where you go, monitor the things that you purchase, monitor the food that you eat, the calories that you're taking, without you having to enter it on the screen.
Yeah.
So this is very powerful. I like your thinking. As we heard today, data privacy, I think, is a big issue, and I think there was a lot of discussion around issues related to data privacy. Do we see government stepping in and defining requirements for data privacy, or do we see this as something more on the private sector side?
In my opinion, I haven't checked on government report yet, but I think the White House and the U.S. government just hosted generative AI.
No, that's right. Yes.
The meeting or conference with the industry leaders a few weeks ago. I think, of course, the public sectors are worried and concerned about it.
Yes.
Because there are certain side of the humanity you need to monitor on, you need to regulate them on, right? Make sure people are using the data in the right place. Otherwise, I think now the AI model is already super powerful. You see, you see business leaders like Elon Musk try to call a pause on the
Yeah.
development of the generative AI. I think it's not exaggerating. It's a real problem that is going to happen. That when you have this such powerful tool, this powerful large language model already surpass humans' intelligence. Come on, it already passed the Turing test, right? It can do a lot of things. You can even get a Wharton MBA to replace us. So of course they need the regulation. There will be multiple layers of regulation, just like we human beings, we evolved till now, right? We have a lot of compliance regulation that is guiding, and also forcing the humanity and the society move towards a healthy way, I would say, and a safe way. And the same thing will happen to this silicon-based model.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the perspective of an investor who's actively investing now, and we recognize that our current economic environment is very different from the way things were, let's call it a year plus ago. What are you seeing as some things that investors today are doing differently, maybe doing a little bit differently perhaps, given the current economic climate?
I think particularly this year compared to 2 to 3 years ago, when you have a lot of money on the markets, when the interest rate is super low, this year I think VC investors are getting more conservative, focus a lot more on not just the top line growth, but also the bottom line, like profit margin, if they can generate a healthy gross margin. And they also pay more attention on the burn rate, right? And if you are using effective, just using the most effective fund, the money to generate a certain amount of revenue, cost of the capital is absolutely concerns of the VC right now. We see that these VCs are investing more conservatively. And of course, for my portfolio, I'm looking carefully on their cash burn. I need to spend more conservatively, but smartly to still create a value for their customers. And having said that, I think many VCs are cautious on this part, but also a lot of VCs are chasing, the generative AI startups. So we see these two extremes happening at the same time.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you've shared a lot of wonderful insights, and I just have one final question for you. What would you say to a up-and-coming startup founder who has a brilliant idea? They're focused on connectivity, compute, edge compute, IoT, those spaces. What would you say to that founder? Maybe a piece of advice or an idea or something that you think could help them. What do you think that might be?
It's a very good question. Yeah, and for this type of startups, my observation is that many of them are to B. You need to really understand the industry very well. An interesting example is that last year, actually, I missed a startup. That's one of my FOMO. So that founder is very young, Stanford graduate, and he developed this AI vertical inspection platform for EV and the battery sector. And what he's doing was super impressive is that before he started the company, he has this vision already, right? He has a vision. He thinks there's a market pain, but he verified the market aggressively. So he talked to over 50 manufacturing OEMs to verify the problem. Number one, the problem is real. Number two, is critical enough, big enough. And number three, their product is pragmatic enough to be deployed. So through this verification process, I think it's a great learning for himself as well, that he continued the product iteration, he modified his original vision a little bit, and he came up with the product quickly and deployed it quickly. And within a year, he already got over 60 OEM customers. That's amazing. I would say this is a very good example of a young entrepreneur, but who launched it towards the right direction. We've often seen startup founders having this massive, brilliant idea, but I don't think they talk to enough people in that specific vertical sector to iterate their idea. So I do encourage startup new entrepreneurs, especially for young entrepreneur, first-time entrepreneur, to relentlessly do this market verification. It's very important.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. It's incredibly important to do the market verification,
Validation.
validate the
Yeah,
demand,
validate it.
understand customer requirements, and really build your solution in the direction that would benefit the customer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Your
Andrew.
feedback has been extremely valuable.
All right,
I
good
really
questions.
appreciate it. And as always, I really appreciate your insights. You're very knowledgeable and you really understand on the investing side how we can help support entrepreneurs. So definitely would love to have you on again next time.
Looking forward to working with you more on more deals in the future.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.